I am trying to explain to you in the next 4 slides, total of 4 slides, this slide and a further three, how to look at risk. Because in enterprise business, people use the word without really understanding how it can be incorporated into a thought process or what exactly is risk. There are some other videos which I have created on defining the word risk and how to measure and monitor and manage it, mitigation of risk. But in this, we're just looking at a everyday universal aspect of what that word means, and it can apply to anything and everything related to human activity, individual teams, groups, enterprises. So, what exactly is risk? So, one way of looking at that is thinking of it as clouds in the sky. It's always there. Sometimes there's no clouds at all. It grows, it reduces, it appears in different shapes, but it's there and we hardly pay attention. So, risk is very analogous to clouds in the sky. So, there are no clouds, but the difference is you can see them. So, um, if you see a very cloudy sky, you might take your umbrella and you may act on that visual sense of having seen the clouds. Risk is not visible. So, if assuming you don't look up at the sky or if you're indoor, you have no idea of what the cloud situation is. So, risk can be analogous to that. Another analogy would be to think of it as salt. It's present in food, it's present in uh, as is sugar and many other elements, but you can think of salt as everything that we eat has an element of salt, most things. And in what quantity is it and how much of it is good? How do you quantify it? How much is your should be your daily intake of salt? But it's there everywhere and you need it. Taste matters and a little bit of salt helps. Wars have been fought over salt. There is it's a very important ingredient, but it's very difficult to isolate it, identify it, and do anything about it. It's there everywhere. But yes, there is a science, and you can quantify it, and it does matter. You have to take some of it. You cannot live without it. So there is nothing between 0 and 100. Uh, uh, where I mean, it's different from at a 0 level. It's not possible. At 100 level, it's not possible. So, what is it for you at which point in your day or your own metabolism? So, salt is analogous to risk in how many senses of the word. A third visual is thinking of a butterfly. The whole butterfly uh, has spots on it. The spots are different, the shapes are different. It defines the butterfly. You can't think of this butterfly without spots, but it has the spots. So, what are the spots? So, you can think of the butterfly as a whole and what purpose does it? So, we can think about it. It has a purpose of camouflage. It may have other purposes that we don't know about. I'm sure the science of butterflies will be able to add more to that. But the point I'm again highlighting is that you can think of it's there. We don't think too much about it, but it adds to the overall element. So it's a visual, another way of thinking about risk. Uh, Risk is something that can happen. It may happen. It may never happen. It never happens. Uh, Sometimes, for example, when we take insurance, car insurance or life insurance or so many other things during a particular period, nothing happens during that period, and you lose the premium on that. Um, but you still have to manage it. You still can't just because you're insured, you don't do certain things, and uh, it needs to be managed. It can be reduced, it can be avoided, controlled, quantified, or avoided. And it's you can think of whether it's on air, road, rails. Accidents do happen, and if you knew it was going to happen, obviously you're going to avoid it. But you're also taking a calculated risk with every activity, human activity that you're doing. So, another analogy is to think of risk as, which is much more directly related. We think every accident is a risk, but of course, science and the data behind it shows that working at home in a kitchen or driving on the road is far more dangerous and high risk relative to, say, air travel. If you look at the number of people who travel globally and the safety measures that are brought in. But that is not so apparent when we see the media or other things. So, trying to understand risk is extremely important. So, the four visuals that we will just recap very quickly is to look at risk uh, as possibly clouds in the sky is one perspective of what risk is about. think of risk as salt being in everything and all things that you eat. Think of risks in most living things, that there are specific characteristics to every creature or insect or animal or plant, and that's unique to that. But it's a risk. Risk is that way with everything and anything. And risk is much more direct when we think of an accident or incident or hazard that can become a risk.